Hey guys, Scott here. Behavior has seen the complaints for the Skull Merchant again and has decided to change her in a better way than last time, I would have to say. Now, it is good to see that they are receptive to feedback because it has been overwhelmingly negative, and this is a good sign that they are beginning to understand the issues. Now, I wish they understood these issues as they were making the killer and they got feedback from people that knew what they were talking about and knew how to play the game, so we wouldn't be in this whole mess where people were just outraged for, a period of a month or whatever before we actually got those changes out. But better late than never. So I do think these changes are a step in the right direction, and they address some of the main issues with the killer. Now, I still think a lot of these changes do sort of lose the identity they were going for, though, and they're just sort of kind of band-aid fixes. But like I said, it's still better than what we currently have right now. So let's go over exactly what is going to be changing. First off, they acknowledge the main problems with the killer, which is that her power is near useless in a chase other than getting that single first hit. And then she's also too strong at holding 3 gens, which is a massive, massive issue as well. And also, there is not enough risk to having a claw trap. These are all things that I definitely touched up on my suggestion video for fixing the killer. So it's good that they acknowledge all of these things that are definitely problematic. So first off is the chase aspect. Now, what they're going to be doing, basically, all this means, claw traps are not threatening really. Just simply knowing where a survivor is, for newer players that might be a bit of a problem that because they rely on hiding and stuff like that. But for most players, it's not that big of a deal. So having a claw trap on, no one really cares about it. However, now if you have a claw trap on, the Skull Merchant will move faster for each person that's being tracked. And that's not just the claw trap tracking, that's anyone that's in a radar zone as well, will also contribute to this bonus. So what they're trying to do is make it so you're always benefiting in some way. If you have 4 drones out, then you have 4 basically areas of denial where people will get exposed and they're going to have to disable the drones, and it's a kind of a slowdown or a huge risk of getting one-shot effect. If they decide to break all of your drones instead, now you've got 4 broken drones. You have no active drones, but now you have 4 claw traps on, which makes you move up to 7% faster, which is actually pretty big. So this basically creates that risk reward incentive that mostly benefits the killer because that's the point. And it's a bit better than what we've got now. So survivors have actually a bit more control to stop this whole 3 gen thing, but also now the killer will be benefiting usually in some way rather than potentially in basically no way. That is what resulted in the 3 gens because there's nothing else she could really do, and this might help that a little bit. So they go over what they're doing to prevent the 3genning down below it. Basically, every time a survivor is tracked on the radar now, you are 3% faster, and then 5%, 6%, 7 for 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And these do count the claw trap. So whenever you break a drone, you get a claw trap on you for 30 seconds, and that will contribute. So that is interesting. I'm not sure how much this is going to help, but it's an interesting buff that creates this sort of trade-off. And I'm curious to see just how much that is, because 7% movement speed, I don't know if you ever ran Hope before, is pretty significant. I can see people combining this with Play With Your Food just for memes, just to be running like 130% movement speed. It's going to be it's going to result in some fairly interesting things, I think. So I think that's an okay change. Next, they're basically making the brown add-on that destroys the pallet when you vault over it with a claw trap. They're making that base kit. So that's a change to make her stronger in chase, undoubtedly. I still preferred that they touched up on her undetectable or make survivors oblivious aspect, because it seems like they want her to be a tracker and an assassin type of playstyle, but this sort of moves towards brute force again, which again, thematically, I feel like doesn't fit her as well as buffing the stealth aspects of her chase potential. But, this is fine too. It's something to give her some power in a chase. And now if you do break a drone, you will have a window where if she comes and chases you, you are significantly more vulnerable in a chase, even if you're not exposed, because as soon as you vault the pallet will break. And that will also give you her drone back once the claw trap is broken as well. And that, again, creates sort of an interesting feedback loop there. So that definitely makes her stronger in a chase. But when you do something like that, we have to also address the 3-gen potential that she has. And so they definitely talk about it here. They understand that these go on for a very long time and it's not really fun. And it's good. I'm very happy to see that they acknowledge how incredibly boring holding 3 gens with the Skull Merchant and, to an extent, other killers like the Knight are as well. And I'm hoping they try to address the fact that it's mostly the perks that do this, not the killer. But the killer does synergize with the perks a bit too well, and that's what they're trying to adjust. So, to fix that, basically drones are no longer immediately returned as soon as they are disabled. Because normally, if you break a drone, she just immediately gets it back. So, what would happen is you would break a drone, she would see that drone get broken, she would come back and just throw up another drone, and then you'd have to wait 10 seconds again for it to go into the hackable state. So it just was just a never-ending loop of her just throwing shit out, and then you having to wait or get exposed and then risk the down. So it ended up with this very, very boring play style where she would just keep resetting it, you would keep disabling it, in an endless loop of no one doing anything, while gen regression perks would fill in the time in between that and regress it while you were messing with that. So that is why they decided to change all this stuff. So now you cannot hold a claw trap indefinitely. You have to, well, you don't have to take it off. It just breaks now as soon as it expires. So that whole little mini game where you have to press the buttons, that is no longer in the game. And the reason that they did this is so survivors couldn't basically hold the claw traps hostage, because since now they're only the drones are only refunded to you when you have a claw trap, or when you have a claw trap broken. They need to make it so the claw traps are guaranteed to be broken, or as they say here, you can have a scenario where the survivor just runs around, everyone has claw traps on, and then you just can't use drones anymore. Now, interestingly enough, I'm not sure I think that's even necessary, because if you do that, now the killer is just moving 7% faster, which is pretty significant. It's sort of like the whole plague thing. You don't necessarily have to cleanse against plague, but now you're playing against the killer where you're one shot by everything. And so it creates sort of that trade-off where there's a risk reward for choosing either option, and it's somewhat interesting, but I'm completely okay with this as well. I think that is fine. Now, I think the main question is, will she still be able to hold the 3-gen in the same way? And no, I don't think she will be able to, because of the fact that she has to now wait that 30-second window for the claw trap to break before she can go reset it. So there will be a bit of a wiggle room where she can't just immediately reset the drone's defense of that area again. And while that's happening, she's also moving a bit faster while she has less drones. And also the person that she decides to commit to will have pallets broken as soon as they vault, which makes it even better for her to leave her 3-gen and chase people and actually try to get downs. The thing is, being able to hold a 3-gen doesn't really make the killer good, it just makes them boring. The reason why you would say Blight or Nurse are not good at holding 3-gens is because they kill you before you even get to that point. And if you do get to that point, they definitely kill you, because the 3-gen with those killers is guaranteed very quick death. But this killer, it was so weak that it was the only thing that she could really do. So by buffing her chase, you will hopefully see less of that, because it's also less effective as well. Additionally, we have some add-on changes. So the brown add-on is now base kit, so that obviously needs to be changed. Now it reduces the time for undetectable to take effect inside an active zone by 50%. It takes 2 seconds to go into undetectable. Now I guess it'll take 1 second. So that's cool, I guess. And the other add-on expired battery, this is the one that starts everybody with a claw trap on. Because you're going to move a lot faster now. You're going to be 7% faster because you're going to have 4 people being tracked, and also they're going to be vulnerable to the effects of the pallets breaking. They have nerfed the duration of those starting claw traps by quite a bit. And I think that makes sense, because that would probably be too strong to have infinite tracking, insane movement speed, and also insane chase potential, because the pallets would instantly break as well. That would probably be mildly oppressive. Again, compared to things like Alchemist Ring, it doesn't even touch it, but that's just, Alchemist Ring, like, why do you still exist? Just because that exists doesn't mean this should. So I think that's a pretty good change. I'm okay with that. And other than that, that is pretty much the main changes we're getting. So even if this doesn't necessarily fix her, I have to say I'm happy that the developers understand finally, after however long, what her main issues were. And it's more concerning that they didn't see this as they were making her. I've always asked, like, for years and years and years, for them to have a team of players that actually know how to play the game, and not in the PTB phase, early on in development when they're storyboarding it and they are just drawing up blueprints and stuff. That's when they come to these people and ask, hey, is this a good idea? Because every single one of them would go, no, this is a terrible idea, as soon as they saw it, and they wouldn't waste all this development time. They wouldn't get all this outrage. It would just be better for the company. I don't know why they don't consult outside help for it. You don't have to pay them. I'm sure people would happily do it for free. So I really wish they would do that, but I guess leaks are a concern. So you'd have to vet everyone very, very well. So I guess I get it, but I would love to see something like that. Either way, these changes do make her chase better. They do make her 3 gen worse, which go hand in hand to make her probably less miserable to go against. Time will tell. I'm sure people will come out with some incredibly unfun thing to do because that's what players do. But for the most part, I am fairly positive about these changes. Am I going to play her still? Almost definitely not. She's still a fundamentally flawed design of a killer, and I think she needs a complete rework. But as far as, bandages and, just trying to fix things as they come, I think this is pretty decent so far. We have a long way to go for her, but step in the right direction, I guess. That's it. Thanks for watching.